This is Sean with Project Education. Here's another talk with counselors and experts in how to become tougher through trauma.
I'm Robin Pano. I've been working as a school social worker for the last 34 years or so in different capacities in different schools, and I'm currently for the last 6 or 7 years at Terraville High School.
Okay. And before the whole coronavirus thing and the quarantine, what were some of the things you were experiencing there on the ground with your school?
I would say that the kids and the teachers were still experiencing some post-traumatic stress from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragedy. We were still, sort of on edge, people on edge. I think that we also experienced as a result of that increased code reds where an alarm would go off and you'd have to hide in the corner, you have to turn the lights off, and even more triggering even more trauma for many kids. So that was something that was sort of ongoing, and many of us were getting trained to deal with that and to help kids get through that.
Wow. Okay. And what is protocol for something like that? Like a student that comes to you that is being repeatedly traumatized by code reds.
Well, one of the things that we learned to do is we have a parent link, and we can inform the parent when it's going to be a practice one. And if they choose to keep the child home during that day, they can.
Okay. Oh, that's neat.
Some of the kids were doing that. They couldn't deal with that. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Is there, out of curiosity, is there ever a time where you encourage the student to engage in those code reds for the sake of strengthening them for those moments?
I never have personally.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Thought, maybe there was somebody that wanted to overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, not that I've come across that I felt like it would be beneficial, because we've had so many. Many.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in some schools where they had more than one in one day, which I'm not exactly sure what happened with that. So
yeah, that I don't even know.
Wow, wild. So
yeah.
Okay. And now that we're in this coronavirus situation season, what are some of the things you're hearing from the front line? I know you're meeting students through Zoom, like we're having this meeting now.
Yeah. It's like Zoom. It's called Teams 360 or something like that. So we get to do conferences with our colleagues in a similar setting as this.
Okay.
And then we have ability to call people through there and either do audio or video with families, with students or parents, things like that.
Okay.
And then we have access to our database. And so teachers can refer to social workers or other support people through the BASIS. It's called BASIS. It's a database. So I go on my database and I can see referrals there.
Okay. Are you getting the same number of requests for counseling like you did when the school was open?
Well, it's kind of early to tell right now. We do have a whole new counseling department. It's building up. It's ever since MSD, a lot of money went into hiring more social workers and counselors. So we have a department that just does that. Does that. And so they're reaching out to the students. The communication's been a little difficult. That's the only problem.
Okay.
But it's not as much, to answer your question, the last couple of weeks, no, not as much as I had before.
Okay. As a counselor who's been doing this for so long, do you have concerns of things that might be not being reported or underreported, or things you think your students might be going through?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we don't know, because these kids, many of them are from broken families, from domestic abuse, from there may be alcoholism in the family, there may be physical abuse going on, and school was the refuge in the past. They could at least get out and be at school and have some normalcy for that period of time, but now they can't. So there's a concern. Like one of my colleagues said, she had the experience of talking with a student and she sensed something. And she said, are you able to really talk right now? And she said, no, because maybe the home is smaller. There may be a lot of people, and the child doesn't feel comfortable maybe speaking in the same way that they normally would to the counselor.
Wow.
Because,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that is concerning. How about the isolation? How do you feel that affects students?
The what? I'm sorry.
The isolation, the being.
Oh, the isolation, huge. Yeah. Matter of fact, I had, if I write it down, student yesterday complained to his teacher. It's called Canvas is their database, how they're doing their curriculum through with the teacher, and he's frustrated with it, and he's saying that it's making him extremely angry. And he says this is his words, very articulate. He said partly because of the inherent alienation effect of schooling online. He feels alienated.
Okay.
He said that he struggled in school anyway, but he would go, at least he got that connection from his peers and knew that other people were going through the same thing he was. Now he's having to struggle, but without the support of the peers being there and feeling alienated. So he articulated that very well, that he's really not liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other kids do like it. Other kids are doing. I have another pair of siblings who I used to have a problem getting them to come to school because there were different little things that happened in the home, and they just couldn't manage to get themselves there. Now they're online and they're fine because it seems for them it's better. Because they were home anyway. They were home a lot anyway before this. So now they're home, and at least they can now do their school while they're there. So it's kind of a cool thing. I wish that we could use that, for some of the truant kids that we were dealing with all through the years, that we didn't really give them that option until they get a little bit older, then they get the option. That's how it works.
So we can't assume everyone's experiencing the same thing, right? Some students are benefiting from this transition.
Yeah. And some are hating it.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
And it's because, if you're a teenager, dealing with, you're changing and you're an adolescent and you have all this physical stuff going on and emotional stuff going on. And then now you have to discipline yourself to actually do your work where your teacher isn't over you. That's really hard for some kids because self-discipline was never really developed yet, so.
Any tips for someone who's just now trying to figure that out?
What, the self-discipline part?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to do a schedule, and you have to have a time, a place, and a schedule. And that's the recommendation. You have all the kids were given laptops. And so now they just need to have a quiet place to get online, to do the homework, and to make sure that they're doing it every day at the same time. Maybe get dressed, maybe do a routine where you know that from this time to this time, you're going to be doing your work, and then just make yourself do it.
Yeah. I mean, you and I, we dressed up for this. I'm at home and I'm buttoned up, right? So
I did the top part.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Don't ask, I'm wearing shorts, but even I have to do that, right? To some degree to feel like there's normalcy. And I'm trying to eat lunch at a set time and do the exact half-hour lunch that I was doing when I was in my workplace, just to maintain.
And that helps, right? It helps because that routine helps us. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. I was catching myself, slipping there a little bit with my productivity, and this actually has really picked it back up. So good. A student who is struggling with the isolation, and that can lead, for me, anxiety, depression. Do you have any advice for that student? Because it's not like they can you can say, get out of the house and go see your friends.
Right. But that connectivity, that part of us designed to need other people is still there, and we're feeling it more, I think, during this time. And I think what's helped me is making those connections, making sure that, I reach out to my colleagues, for instance, and we can talk about what struggles we're having together. And I think it's important for the kids too, talk to your peers and talk about what they're going through and how, you can help each other that way. I think that's the best thing for isolation, and even for that anxiety, talking with other people. finding people that you can trust and talking about the situation and how you're feeling.
That's good. That's good.
Mm.
Okay. And obviously video chatting, I mean, the technology is there, right? So even you and I have had a Zoom meeting before and to connect with some of our friends, and it's been helpful, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Good.
connection is, it's not as good as person, but it's pretty good. I'm finding myself that I'm probably connecting more to people than I normally would, because it's more, it's, you have to make the time and effort. It seems like I'm doing a lot of one-on-one and meetings and connecting with old friends even.
Good.
Uh, yeah,
So you're actually taking advantage of the time rather than letting this like take you down.
absolutely.
You're being proactive with the
Yeah, I
freedom.
think we can get creative with this time and
Yeah.
do things we never had time to do before, and find the joy in that.
That's good. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
because with anxiety, like there's a bit of a control element. And so rather than feeling like the quarantine's being done to us, there's something I imagine about being proactive with the quarantine and saying, no, I'm going to connect with old friends and I'm going to be, life won't happen to me. I'll happen to life to some degree. I feel like that
Yeah.
can help, right?
Yeah. You have time to create things that you've always wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
nice.
to
I
think
like that.
about doing things creatively.
I think I'll
Yeah.
call an old friend today. I'll take your advice. Have you ever
Yeah.
experienced burnout, Robin? Have you? I know in the counseling world, the anxiety and depression that we're talking about is called burnout. Has that happened to you? And if so,
Yeah.
have you?
Yeah.
What
And
do you do
it's
about that?
sometimes called compassion fatigue. It happens to pastors and anybody in the helping field. And
Okay.
we can sometimes just get so tired of, feeling like we're working and working and working. And yeah, of course. And much more I can remember back in settings that, which were more highly intensive than a high school, like a psychiatric day treatment and things like that, where I remember that was very, very draining. It was like an emergency room situation a lot of the time. So I became very interested in how to help understand compassion fatigue. And one of the very first things I learned is setting boundaries for myself. At 3 o'clock when I left, I had to learn how to block it.
Mm.
I now, focused on my family, folks. I didn't carry any of the worries with me. I had to learn how to separate it. And I didn't bring home work. That
Okay.
was something I was taught early on. Just keep whatever work you're doing, keep it separate from your family life and your leisure life. And if that is having a room in your house where you only work, and just do it in that room, don't bring it into the family room or to
Oh.
the kitchen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can set up boundaries that are actually physical and then emotional and psychological, where, okay, I'm done with that. I'm not going to think about it anymore.
Wow.
Because some of those things were very heavy. They were very weighty and emotional. And I had to learn to separate them.
That's interesting.
And then at one point, you have to say, is it time for me to move on to something else? And sometimes that's the thing. You need a new environment. You need a new position, a new way to help from a different area, maybe.
Yeah. This would seem helpful to the student who's dealing now with school in the home. Is there something to that where maybe the area that you do your schoolwork
Yes.
could be a different area than you do your
Yes.
leisure time on YouTube or whatever you do with your computer? Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah. And having your special place that's just where, for yourself, whether it is to read or to paint or whatever you love doing, that you have that time. And even if you don't have enough rooms in your house to have your own space, you can create some space somewhere, some way, even if it's, a place that you can plug in and listen to music, right? Or do something that makes your heart feel joyful, whatever that is.
Really good. Very good. Okay. And I realized from this coronavirus crisis that I was not prepared for a crisis like this. And I guess something I would ask you as a social worker, how can I better prepare for the next crisis in life. Obviously hard to prepare for pandemics, but
prepared to not knowing. But this is good practice, right? Because now we know think about what got you through. And even journaling, I think journaling is very therapeutic and helpful for our growth, emotionally and spiritually. What am I finding what is God showing me in my quiet time? What am I learning about myself as I'm being still and not having the usual rush, in my life? Right. And I'm writing those things down, things that I'm enjoying. I found that I'm able to make sure that I do this exercise or this class that I like or something, anything. And then just remembering what it was for you that got you through it. So when and if it happens again, you can remember, this is what I did and it got me through it. And also just remember that you were brought through it. If we can remember that we were brought through something, it gives us hope for the next time too, I think.
Love that. Very good. Okay. Take advantage of the time we've got, thinking about what we enjoyed from this season and remembering we got through it. I'm picking up on all of this. This is good. Robin, thank you so much for giving us the insight and sharing this, and really appreciate it. Thanks for what you do for our students, and we'll look forward to having another talk like this sometime.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.